So question though for you guys, from a corporate recruiting standpoint, and I don't mean like any, I'm just saying business recruiting. You provide the diverse slate. You have a thought on who may be the stronger candidate, but you feel all of them are strong. You're not going to submit somebody that is truly like just shouldn't even be there just to have a diverse slate. You're not going to do that. When the person doesn't, when the person that you thought was the least likely to get hired gets hired, what recourse or what are your thoughts at that stage?
Wow, yeah, I don't feel I have much of a say in terms of, you can make your opinion known, but they're going to hire who they want to hire, in my estimation. And that, like you said, that diverse slate could be just window dressing.
Just to be able to say that we did
Just
it
to
right.
say, yeah, we interviewed these candidates. These were the strongest. 3 out of 5 came from a diverse background.
And so let's call in this discussion, let's call that diverse candidate John Smith. So John Smith doesn't get the job, but I've had relationships with hiring managers where, I ask why. I know I'm not going to get 100% truth, but I will find out. You think John Smith is hireable in the organization? Yes. And then, I'll try to market John Smith throughout the organization. So that's something that I can do. But again, at the end of the day, like Todd said, hiring managers are going to hire who they want to hire. And we have a little bit of say, depending on the relationship we have with our hiring managers or the hiring managers that we work with. So, there's times when I said, hey, John Smith was a runner up for this position, solid. Look at his background, look at his pedigree, get him in there. But on the other side of that, there have been the John Smiths that have been referred by other people that are respected, and John Smith gets the job. So, like I said, it's multi-layered, this situation we're in.
Yeah, I think it comes down to two, like, who gets the second chances. To your point, Mike, you go get hired just to climb the ladder. Maybe you take a not such an ideal situation, like you have to go coach for a perennial loser, but then they'll look at your record and go, oh, he has a losing career record. Why would I hire this guy? So it's kind of a tough situation that you're in. You want to get that shot, maybe, okay, you climb the ladder, maybe not such a glamorous franchise, but then if you don't do well, and I can see why Brian Flores wouldn't want to tank, because that reflects on his coaching record and his competitive nature. It goes against, competitive sports, right? You don't tank. Yeah, maybe the greater good, but by the time you get to that first round draft pick, you may be out of a job because your record was shitty. it's all stacked against, from a losing situation.
But the one thing about the coaching opportunities, I don't see Dolphins as a low tier job. You had Lynn at Chargers. You had was Lynn also at the Broncos, or I forget the person that was at the Broncos.
Yeah,
there hasn't been like, what are shit jobs in the NFL? Like, let's be real. There's only 32 of them. So,
and that's my point. That's my point, and I think it goes back to control. So the team, the AFC representative in the Super Bowl this year hasn't been since '88. Not saying they haven't won since '88, but they haven't. I'm sorry, yeah, '88 haven't been since '88. So I'm trying to say there are some teams in the NFL that just don't win, and they're, for whatever reasons, they're maybe not supposed to win. They just don't win. So part of the head coaching for what I'm beginning to see now is just being able to be a company guy. All right, you know what? Don't win here. You'll get another job, and you may end up going to Detroit, where you're not going to win. And you know what? If you do what we tell you here, you got a job. You may go to friggin' the Jets, where your ass ain't going to win. but you're a company guy. We know we can trust you, and we know that you're loyal. And loyalty and trust is a big deal in football coaching. So again, 32 teams, some of them ain't gonna win. Period. End of sentence. So if you can be a company guy and win, you got a job. But again, some people just they can't do that.
I think it's two different conversations though, because the state of the team or the history of the team, there's still only 32 stories out there. So, and everyone's been on cycles. So I don't know if Brian Flores was initially, I mean, I hear what he's saying in that these are the only ones being given up to. But remember, coaching changes are only done in losing teams. Unless someone retires, the best teams stay intact. You know what I mean? The losing teams change coaches. So that's one conversation. Back to what you guys are saying about the losing records, though, is the challenge. Because if you lose, you're like, oh, he's such a promising coach. He just doesn't have any tools. They're 1-31. And you heard Haslam, the dude that was head of Cleveland, come out and say, well, Hugh has never taken any responsibility over losing. I'm like, you know what? I sent a tweet. I said, he took the ultimate responsibility. He got fired. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you fired him. So you can't say like what he didn't come out and say like a mea culpa or like, something I was doing didn't make us win. So this is perfect. Mike, we lived it at Fox. You have no resources. You're the only that's been in that role, maybe ever. Is anybody giving me a pass on recruiting service delivery? Hell no. Hell no. So I'm being asked to take an L for someone else's draft capital.
All the time. Now you got that choice now, right? And I'm putting in the NFL context because and at Fox too, you got that choice to where you take that L and you could be like, this is some BS and bounce. Or, I mean, if you have that document.
But why do we have to, why are we left with that jacked up choice? Why can't we win?
You can win, but it may not necessarily be in the NFL today.
I'm corporate, whatever.
No,
I'm saying
right.
we are not given choices to win.
You can win though.
But we're not given choices to necessarily win. We're given choices to participate. And the only way that we could participate is by showing ultimate loyalty of having no control over our participation.
So
that's a fucked up choice. Excuse my language.
I like that language as far as I'm concerned. So let's go back 20 years. It was a difficult. The choice back then to take that L is more difficult than it is now, because now you can podcast, you can do so many other things to win and remain true to who you are and be a recruiter if that's what you want to be. So I agree. 20 years ago, that was an effed up choice. But right now, I don't really see, okay, I don't want to be on my own. I want to have the protection of working with a large organization. A, it looks good on my resume. B, I get the benefits. You better get a job with benefits. And C, D, all down the line. But today, though it's different now, I think you can put yourself in a situation now where you can win. But I don't want to overlook what you said before. Back then, it was an effed up choice.
I have to say though, I don't think it's back then. If a company, if you are cut off from opportunities, period, even if you choose not to go to that opportunity because of the conditions that are being created, that's jacked up. And eventually that will hurt the company because people will say, well, I'm not going to work for you. But for the people that are there, that's jacked up. It's not 20 years ago. You got the Great Resignation. So people are saying I'm bouncing, but you still got a ton of people that are there having to endure because this is America, man. We all should have choices that at the company that we choose to work at, that the company's trying to win. Now, it's not always going to be the case.
It's not always going to be the case. And it's that individual piece. So yeah, you're right. There are some people who are in an effed up situation, but again, I believe they have that choice to make things better. And that's, now we're getting spiritual and mystical.
But so Brian, but going back to this, you're saying Brian Flores shouldn't have done the lawsuit. I'm not saying you particularly saying this, but right. I'm saying for a lot of people, well, you know, you have the choice to go coach in Canada, you have the choice to go coach in college. So money's different. So this is my point that I'm getting at. These small choices that we think are other people's personal choices. So we could choose to go do something else. This is America. But our generational wealth opportunities are impacted by those choices. And so think about it. When someone says, oh, I was a part of the slate, I didn't get selected, whatever background noise or whatever, this impacts whether you're a candidate for the next job. That impacts, again, potentially your family and the generational wealth. And that is not fair. And I'm not saying life is fair, but that's the issue. This is bigger than just the individual decision. And when someone's creating a condition that impacts you in that way, I mean, if not checked, if not called out without you having to leave, with you taking a stand and doing whatever it takes, I mean, that's going to create maybe the opportunity for someone else to be able to have that generational wealth. But if we don't ever say anything, we just bounce, the system is going to be like this 50 years from now. It'll never change.
So call me naive. So much of what you just said is on point. But again, I'm still looking at it. All right, I remember when I was in school way back when, doing a essay or a term paper, I had to take my butt to the library, find some books. The one I want is checked out. Go back, this thing is still checked out. Fast forward, I mean, writing a paper now, I can get, so the situation then was, I was in a situation, made a decision, and I was also put in a situation where I didn't have the resources, because the resources I need, somebody else already had them. This person had that book that I wanted. So I was kind of stuck. But now, I know it's an oversimplification, but now it's different. So I had a, and let me just say this, Brian, to let you know that I'm in step with some of what you said. At Fox, a woman interviewed, let's call her diverse woman interviewed, to me, very qualified. Went through the whole process, didn't get the job. Now, the person that they went with was as qualified, but as a matter of fact, this woman did end up getting another job because I was advocating for her. But at any rate, after the interview she had for the first position, when I called to tell her, guess what, you didn't get the job, she said, okay, thank you very much. And I said, I'm going to keep you in mind. And how many people have heard a recruiter say that and never hear from that recruiter again? But anyway, so then like a week later, she calls me up. She was like, I just want to ask you a question, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Did they say anything in that interview feedback that I need to know about? And I knew exactly what she meant, being that she was a quote unquote diverse female. And the truth was no. The truth was no. But see, it's one of those things where, can you imagine having to be in that situation throughout your entire work career, to being a person that has a great background, impeccable references, but still have to have that in the back of your mind? That's what I'm saying. I think it can affect an individual's performance, because they just can't be in their full flow state. They can't be themselves. And if they're holding back all the time, it's going to show somewhere. And then there we go. Police going to say, no, can't work with them because X, Y, Z.
That is the diverse, the person of color's experience in corporate though. If you get the job, that's the big win. Your performance in the job is like, wow, this person, they're determining whether you're a star within minutes. Within minutes. You may move to say, hey, I need to build a relationship. I need to do this. That's what Black folk, we normally do. Most people, hey, their business is about relationships. Oh, but the person's not really technically sound, or they don't speak up in meetings, or they don't do this, or they don't do that like their other colleagues. It's you know what I mean? Or they're out there. They're assertive. I don't know if they're a team player. You know what I mean? They haven't really come in and worked on building relationships. So it's this, Linus and Lucy thing, or Charlie Brown and Lucy, where, the ball keeps getting moved, or the goalpost keeps getting moved. And again, it sounds like a game. That impacts the livelihood of families. This isn't a game. These aren't like people on paper. These aren't numbers. This impacts, how gradual it is to get ahead. So if you have negative stuff happening that prevents you from being all you could be, it can impact you the other way.
Now let's take it outside of football, where someone, let's say let's say a recruiter, and recruiting in an organization is not a profit center, but let's just recruiter, someone, my manager comes to me and says, you know what, let's slow play this rec for a little bit because there's something else going in the background. They're making a change in that group. They're going to bring in a new VP, but the rest of the group doesn't know about this yet. So we got to wait for 45 days for when this new VP comes in, but you can't tell that to the director that you're working with. So I'm in a situation as a recruiter, I'm slow playing it. I'm not sending as many resumes as I should, and this director starts complaining. So now I'm in a situation where I'm losing credibility, and I have to trust the manager that said you're gonna be fine. So either I can continue to send people and have interviews, and then my manager finds out, like, hey, Mike, 2 weeks ago I told you to slow play this. Why did I hear that this person from Disney who I worked with, why did he call me and tell me he's getting ready to go on an interview for this role? Because I can't slow play this. I've been taught that I got to get, Mike, you know what? You're not being a team player right now. I asked you 2 weeks ago to slow play this and you didn't. So now I'm in a situation where I'm like, who do I trust?
I mean, it's a jacked up situation, but funny how that could change to where the person that was telling you to slow play, then their job becomes in question. Think about this stuff. The only thing that's public is you not doing what you need to do.
Exactly.
From a loyalty standpoint, it's a far cry. It will happen. It happens. Where somehow that person that you were being loyal to and goes on to something else or whatever, and then you get promoted, and it was all because you show up. The percentage of that is low.
You can say that again.
So I guess I'm not refuting anything that you're saying. I think all of this stuff happens. It's reality. I'm saying every little bit could either tick up your propensity to achieve higher level or tick down your propensity to achieve lower level. And if you then spread this kind of the calculation across a much larger population of people, that some have the acumen to be able to strategically maneuver in it. Some people have the pressures of life that they won't be able to maneuver well in it. So the gap becomes even wider of the people that will succeed in those situations and the people that won't succeed in those situations. That's what's creating the skills gap. That's what's creating the salary gap or the poverty. I'm telling you that these algorithms, it's not set up in a capitalist society where shareholder value is the highest thing. It should all be about talent development and people performing at their highest level, because it should always be about winning. There's no situation where shareholder value wants you to play coy, in a sense. It's only people in charge that want to slow play things to maintain power.
I think it starts with one, right? Remember Kurt Flood, the old center fielder for, gosh, was it Cincinnati? And then he got traded. Yeah, he got traded to the Cardinals, and then he applied for free agency. But then he never really got a big contract after that. But then it started the whole free agency thing, right? In all leagues. And then just being able to, or like, take it back to my team, the Dodgers with Jackie Robinson. You have to have that one person who can handle all the scrutiny, all the hate, and to your point, Mike, kind of stay within a box and not be too controversial. So because you have to somebody's got to walk through that door first. But it's been too slow, in my estimation. But I think that's where you have to have it all levels: general managers, directors of player personnel, owners, even on the broadcast side. Not a great record with diversity, that's for sure. Well, I think too, that's why from a recruiting perspective, as a candidate, it's important to look at the C-levels or, some of the leadership. Are they seeing faces like theirs in the boardrooms? Because if you have one company with all C-levels with white males over 40, and you see the chief diversity officer being the lone person from a diverse background, you go, okay, is that just window dressing or what? Or are they affecting change? Are they the first person to plant the flag? So that's kind of where it's also too incumbent upon, the candidate or the talent in this case to know what company they want to work for. So I would probably not work for certain companies because maybe their stance or maybe something the CEO said in his past. It's always good to do that research on the front end as well.